Is the world wandering after the beast? I always wondered how Marcus did his blending and things and stuff like that, so I just quickly put something together last night, trying to do it so it looks nice, presentable and everything, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. That's with everything, the more you study and everything else. Anyway, as we see there, this is on the, this one here was the Christmas message in 2016. I think with the Pope there, and I can't remember when was it 2015 when he went to speak in America anyway. I just wanted to get an image of a lot of people around, not necessarily the Pope, but the system itself, because that's what really we're talking about, not an individual person. So it's a question we can see happening, but will soon turn into the last part of Revelation 13. And the world wondered after the beast. World governments, local governments are putting plans in motion, maybe without their knowledge of what they are really doing. Some not so. By following the plans of the beast power behind the scenes. And we know there's many things that are happening in the world. We can see what's happening with Trudeau and the World Economic Forum, and we see, I was listening to Truth Matters this morning, and the message that the Pope gave in 2020 to do with climate and things like that is exactly the same message in 2022 that, was it the leader of the European Union and these other leaders all gave the same message, and they all happen to be Catholic as well. So they just regurgitated the same message that the Pope has. That's not anything against Catholics per se, but just the fact that that message is being followed through. We have seen the start of the introduction of 15-minute cities, and there's a website for it, though there's not much info. You can learn from it. If you click on Learn More, it just takes you to something else. There is an article about it. And this is from City, I think it's City Monitor magazine. That's the website for the 15-minute city. Putting people at the center of urban transformation. And we've heard of other cities doing the same sort of thing. The one in Melbourne, I was just reading in an online magazine last night when I was preparing this. 15-minute cities coming to Brisbane. So you can see how things are changing. So what is a 15-minute city? The vision for sustainable cities imagines places where residents can truly live locally with everything they need, just a short walk or bike ride away. A brief history of the 15-minute city. The overall idea isn't new. It builds on principles of new urbanism and transit-orientated development. And it finds its roots in the idea of the neighborhoods unit, advanced by the American planner Clarence Perry in the early 1900s. Similar visions of 30 and 20-minute cities or neighborhoods have also emerged in the past decade, notably in Australia. We have seen this now in Melbourne, as well as what they are introducing. Can a 15-minute city work? There's already compelling evidence that 15-minute city can work. Replacing long commutes and car fast transits with bikes and walking would slash vehicle emissions and increase resident health and free up roads and parking spaces for other users. It goes on to say, most trips taken in cities are pretty short. Research on the US households' driving habits found that nearly 60% of one-way trips are less than 6 miles, 9.6 Ks, and 75% of all trips are 10 miles or less. It's worth acknowledging that the 15-minute city seems bold, and transformative precisely because the way we design cities now is authentical to its goals. And this image here, I think if you can just see at the bottom there where it says that's the line in Saudi Arabia, what they're planning on doing. I'm assuming a few people have seen that long line of, I don't know what, it's a big thing that is supposed to be really long that people are going to be housed in or something, I think. It says, this is from Dawes, another online news. It's supposed to be the city of the future, is the supposed city of the future a climate-friendly paradise, or it says there, or dystopian conspiracy. It says TikTok conspiracy theorists say the 15-minute city agenda is an attempt to usher in climate lockdowns. Supporters say it can help save a dying planet. But the planet's going to die anyway because Jesus is returning, and we're going to have a new planet anyway. And this next article is from the World Economic Forum. The surprising stickiness of the 15-minute city. It says, urbanism trends come and go, but the 15-minute city framing of walkable, mixed-use and urban development is a lot more than a fad. The historical roots of the 15-minute city are connected deeply with the current moment, one we'll be living with for a long time to come. As climate change and global conflict causes shocks and stresses as faster intervals and increasing severity, the 15-minute city will become even more critical. Urbanism trends come and go, broad a city resident eco-city, yet the 15-minute city concept, which implies having all necessary amenities with a short walk, bike ride or public transport trip from one's home, has demonstrated stickiness, not just as an idea, but as a powerful tool for action. From Paris to Seoul, from Bogota, I think that is, to Houston. Now Marcus has touched on some of these things that I've gone through anyway, I've been on, but there was the one in Oxford which they introduced. And to start off with, I'd listened to some messages about it, the 15-minute city. And when I actually read the article, that's not what it was talking about, where you didn't, what was it, the 100 days I think it was, so every 2 days you were allowed to travel without being fined or being charged for moving around. That's what the original article said. It wasn't anything like what they were talking about. Then a couple of days later, there was protests in Oxford, and then the actual real reasons for it are exactly what they plan to do. And the same sort of thing is keep people there, so your new close-knit community. But it's been going on for a while. You know, I think some of them have mentioned in the 2016 or before that, 1990s, the ideas have been going around for quite a while about these 15, 20, 30-minute cities and things like that, where everything is going to be in where you're going to be. You've got your education, you've got your hospital, you don't really need to travel. You've got your 15-minute bike ride. 15 minutes, I could do, I don't know, 8 mile or less or more than that, I'm not sure. But that's where everything is. And it sounds really good. I mean, it sounds really good if you've got everything at hand to most people. It's all very good and nice to have everything at your feet. You don't have to travel far to get everything you need. You're in a little space, 15 minutes wide. That's not to say that you cannot go and visit others, but the idea is to be in your close-knit community. So are these signs that the world is wandering after the beast? You could call it a conspiracy, like the article previous, or could it be a climate-friendly paradise? I'll let you decide on that one, but it seems they want people to gather in the cities more. As it says, it seems that they want us to be living like this for the foreseeable future. Ellen White says in Country Living, chapter 1, city living, not God's plan. She says, life in the cities is false and artificial. The intense passion for money, getting, the whirl of excitement and pleasure seeking, the thirst for display, the luxury and extravagance, all are forces that, with the great masses of mankind, are turning the mind from life's true purpose. They are opening the door to 1,000 evils. Upon the youth, they have almost irresistible power. One of the most subtle and dangerous temptations that assails the children and youth in the cities is the love of pleasure. Holidays are numerous. Games and horse racing draw thousands. And the whirl of excitement and pleasure attracts them away from the sober duties of life. Money that should have been saved for better use is frittered away for amusements. When I was a kid growing up, and even later on when we used to take the kids, so my mum and dad, we used to go to the seaside, in Skegness or Blackpool or whatever, and we'd go to the fun fair, and my mum wants to take them to play pool and play on the machines and all this other stuff. I grew up with that stuff. And I did it then when I was in the UK, until as I grew, I realized it's not a good thing to do. But I didn't know anything about this, what Ellen White wrote about before. I didn't know anything about country living. And that's why I say, if the church itself would have promoted these things, then irrespective it was 100 years ago, people would have been ready and already been prepared for Jesus coming. And then we wouldn't necessarily be dealing with as many issues that we have today as we see. She goes on. Though the working of trusts and the results of labour unions and strikes, the conditions of life in the city are constantly becoming more and more difficult, serious troubles are before us. And for many families, removal from the cities will become a necessity. The physical surroundings in the cities are often a peril to health. The constant liability to contact with disease, the prevalence of foul air, impure water, impure food, the crowded, dark, unhealthful dwellings are some of the many evils to be met. It was not God's purpose that people should be crowded into cities, huddled together in terraces and tenements. In the beginning, he placed our first parents amidst the beautiful sights and sounds. He desires us to rejoice in today. The more nearly we come into harmony with God's original plan, the more favorable will be our position to secure health of body and mind and soul. And that last quote is took from the Ministry of Healing on 363 to 365. And so it's important for ourselves to be out of the cities. You know, the message that Mackenzie Drebbitt gave 3-4 years ago now, that preparation for the crisis. And I believed before I heard that message that we should have been leaving out of the cities beforehand anyway. But we can see how the papacy is behind systems to get us back into the cities to control us. So from what we read, it's completely opposite to how we should be living. I know many may say, well, that was in her time, and things have gotten better. We have a better standard of living. The quality of life is better. Less diseases, more technology to help us do and think faster. But is it really? I know for myself, not being in Kalanga, I have felt better and had more energy. The air is better, as well as I've rarely been ill, besides the standard COVID symptoms that we had last year. I remember when we first moved up there into Nereham, and was there for a couple of weeks, and Alberto came up, and I was busy on the saw, compound miter saw, whatever, doing something, making something or whatever. And he came up and he says, Tony, how do you like it? How do you like living out in country air and the country itself? And I says, you know what? I actually love it, and I enjoy just being out here. And that's because God changed my heart. Because I was a city person. I couldn't stand the country. I like looking at it, but I would never want to live there. And my thoughts are always, same as in the UK. Somebody could come and murder you, and nobody would know anything about it, and you could be dead for a couple of weeks. But there's all those issues as well. More happens in the cities than out in the country. But It's changed the way that I look at things. We can get closer to nature. We can hear God more because there's not all those distractions. I'm not saying that we can't hear God in the city, but our mind's so distracted. And we spend less time with him in the cities because the cities keep us busy. Working in the country keeps us busy, but there's more lessons to be learned, I believe, personally myself, in the country, watching nature. I remember Marilyn talking about the flowers growing when she was talking about fireweed and how beautiful those flowers were, and didn't realize that you're not supposed to touch them with your hands and things like that. And and learning stuff from nature, how Christ learned things, and that one always sticks in my mind. How the United Arab Emirates developing a green finance hub, with the United Arab, the UEA hosting the COP28 in 2023. All eyes are on the Middle East and its place in securing a net zero future. They want to be net zero, which basically means not increasing the output, for example, say carbon emissions, than the amount that they're inputting. So it's a net zero. And I'm not sure, yeah. And are we seeing that the way the world is moving with different issues? The world is all on board for the Paris Agreement and other agreements they want to use. The global agenda of climate change and what used to be termed global warming. Is there really global warming? I believe so, but not in the way that science falsely defines it. As I have said before, that science understands it. Climate change without the biblical perspective and the prophecies. It says here, as a result, it is critical that the EAU is serious about reducing its reliance on oil as an economic crutch. Easier said than done. Oil and gas production represents over 40% of the GDP in the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, with the exception of the UEA and Bahrain. And I know what is it? Brunei. I think they've only got like about 20 years left of oil or something like that. This is, don't quote me on that, but I think it was that because there was relying on the oil as well. But I think it's by 2050 that they're going to be able, they've got to get to the net zero. So they're not even thinking of the prophecies for the return of Jesus Christ. The Bible clearly tells us in Revelation 7:1-3. And it says, "And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of God in our foreheads." So our understanding of climate change is the fact that Jesus' mercy is being slowly drawn away. So we actually have been having a climate change since there was sin in and on earth. But at the culmination in Noah's time, God flooded the earth. Genesis 6:11-13 and 17. The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth, to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life from under heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die. In my message a few months ago, I mentioned we are living in a dystopian world, and are the signs of those there with total control of the beast's power. We are doing a course at TAFE at the moment about plants. And after we were going through some of the answers, I read some out. This was on last Thursday. And though my answers were correct, they were wrong. They didn't fit in with what the answers they wanted for the module. And it reminded me of how things will be, or maybe they've been there all the time, and I just didn't notice it before, where if you disagree with the narrative, like the last few years of the pandemic, you're wrong. You'll get slated for it. Just the same, it's within the education system, it's within everything. You can't disagree with something, and like I was saying, even though my answers were correct, I can't use those answers because I had to write the specific words down, what they wanted, so I could pass that module. It's just like saying, well, if this is black, this is blue, but if they say, oh, well, it's something else, even though I know it's something else. I had this issue when I was going to do psychology back in the UK to go into nursing. And this is what people say, just go through it and do everything. For me, it was difficult at the time because I had to write an essay to do with personality disorder and things like that. And I told her, I says, I'm a Christian, and I says, I don't believe in personality disorder or the way that science defines it. I says, people are possessed. And she says, well, if you write that and you don't put in what they want you to put in, you're going to fail. I says, so how am I able to pass this without lying? Because I'm having to put something in that I don't believe is true. And she says, well, there's nothing you can do. I says, so what's the point? How can I get into nursing then if this is, I know it's slightly changed from then, but I said, how am I going to be able to get through this course? And she basically says, well, you're not going to be able to unless you put down what they have said I have to put down. And so I ended up leaving that course. We have already seen in the last few weeks, and Marcus mentioned it in his last sermon, I think, about the Jews accepting Sunday as a day of rest. I mentioned it when I was having lunch one time. I says, it's not something new in the sense of the fact that they've been thinking about it, and it could be a viable option, especially for the Jewish nation, for a better economy, to heal rifts between peoples. This is just this is from the Jerusalem Post, but this was what it says. The majority of Israelis support it. That's his opinion, but he believes. And we've seen over the years, Jews accepting Sunday, Muslims accepting Sunday, Malaysia accepting the weekend. You know, this one they're talking about, well, because from what I understand, they work on a Sunday, but now they're going to incorporate Sunday as part of a weekend. So they have a 2.5 day finish early on Friday afternoon, got Saturday, and they got Sunday as well. And I think, is that similar in Jordan that they was introducing the Sunday as well, or they accept? Not yet. It was one of that, I can't remember. Yeah. I know there was one of the other Arab countries that was doing that, I think, was introducing, yeah. Which is surprising for Muslim countries as well and stuff. Yeah. Exodus 20 tells us, 1-8. And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or the earth beneath, or that is in the water underneath the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and shewing mercy unto thousands of them that love me, and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. But more importantly, I shouldn't say they're all important, but remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Here we see, and this is taken from Advent Messenger, Colombia will implement a mandatory rest day to shorten the work week with the aims of resting on Sundays. So they follow in suit, and it all starts off slowly. We have seen this happening in Italy, Poland, Germany, and many other countries. And are slowly following the agenda. They say it may be Sunday in this article, but we know it's most likely to be a Sunday. There are many other things that are happening around the world in different countries. Slowly but surely, they will all soon be speaking with one accord. The time is drawing nearer to Sunday law, coming in little by little. This article from News Punch, and though the title may be clickbait and a bit misleading again, this is where it all starts. Global elites announce plans for mandatory green Sabbath and climate lockdowns. It says, the rolling climate lockdowns and the mandatory green Sabbath are on the horizon for humanity if the global elites get their way. And it says, most likely cities, and this is what would the climate lockdowns look like, most likely cities and states would begin a gradual and discreet ramp up of restrictions. During the early days of the pandemic, millions of Americans work from home. This could become the permanent norm if special carbon taxes are put in place. Such taxes could be imposed on companies. We know that there's going to be carbon taxes on the households now for heating and things like that they're introducing as well. Limiting drive-in or air miles and extend to individual employees. Drive to work in a car, you get hit with the tax. Children could be impacted by climate lockdowns too. Schools, especially those heavily influenced by teachers' unions, could impose permanent online-only days. Delhi, India is already using a version of this concept to crack down on smog pollution. At the same time, either through direct government fiat or due to ineffective green energy policies, some areas of the country could regularly experience Californian-style rolling blackouts. And as fossil fuels and nuclear power go by the wayside, consumers may be prevented from buying new gasoline cars, lawnmowers, or chainsaws. Significant measures are already being planned to combat climate change. California will ban the sale of gasoline cars in 13 years, as will Germany. Britain plans to do the same in just 8. Prohibiting internal combustion engines could save the planet. The argument goes, as each negative weather event is blamed on climate change, government will increasingly use its restrictive tools. And they talk about it and they say some of these things are voluntary. And all of a sudden, it's upon you like a rash. And some people wonder that they are concerned but not fully aware. Wonder, where did that come from? Or just agree with it anyway, as the government is always right and they have our best interests at heart. I know with the UK that Toyota, I think I don't know if they have or going to, but they threatened to leave the UK because the UK government is only doing electric cars, no more combustion engines. You can listen to some TED Talks on people who work in the industry about with electric, is it beneficial? Because they don't consider the amount of power or the amount of energy it takes to produce those batteries, which costs, and for that to offset is more than what, I think it's, one guy was saying like 30 years, if you just use an electric and a gasoline car, so the hybrid cars. So I don't know how it's all going to work out. I've heard that they're going to be planting more trees, but don't they give out carbon? I was listening, as I was saying, I was listening to Truth Matters this morning, and they were saying that this is not the real issue and it's just like a smokescreen for, it's not about this and what's going on. It's more about waiting for the next prophetic thing to happen of church and state. And this is just a sideline. to distract us. But me and Chris were talking in the car this morning, and she mentioned, she says, well, if everybody's on board, because they were saying, and we know, it's got to happen in America, and then when America does it, everybody's going to follow. But we're already seeing other countries doing other things already. And then Chris was saying that if all this is already in plan and already prepared for, it's so much easier, once it's all written down, for people just sign on the dotted line and say, yeah, we agree to it. So me personally, I do believe this is part of the plan. It's just one side issue on part of the church and state and everything else that's happening. Because we know some things are still going to be moving through. And who they're working for, whether they know it or not, they're working for the system that wants the power back, the beast power. I will leave you with this quote from Great Controversy, chapter 35, Character and Aims of the Papacy. And it says, have these persons forgotten the claim of infallibility, put forth the 800 years by this haughty power? So far from being relinquished, this claim has been affirmed in the 19th century with greater positiveness than ever before, as Rome asserts that she never erred and never can err. How can she renounce the principles which governed her course in past ages? The papal church will never relinquish her claim to infallibility. All that she has done in her persecution of those who reject her dogmas, she holds to be right. And would she not repeat the same acts, should the opportunity be presented? Let the restraints now imposed by secular governments be removed, and Rome be reinstated in her former power, and there would speedily be a revival of her tyranny and persecution. Is the world wandering after the beast? I believe so. And like I said at the beginning, soon the world will wander after the beast. That'll be the end of it. They will just follow. We'll have Sunday law coming. Everything else that the beast power wants, they want to be in control. We have the new apps, the carbon apps, to come out to monitor you. They're good, so you can reduce your carbon, so you can keep track of all this thing. The cards, the debit cards that come out from Westpac and the other ones, I don't know if it's Commonwealth Bank and that, good ideas. But when you look into the things, not necessarily so. We just have to be aware. We don't have to be concerned, because God's in control, and this stuff has to happen. But we still need to let people know who's behind things, what's happening, that Jesus is coming soon, that they can be saved, that he's died for them, and everybody from the creation of the earth till the end of the earth, and the earth is going to be made anew. Let's hold on. Because when all this stuff happens, we don't want to be seen wanting. And just like we was reading this morning, and Marilyn was explaining or commenting about the 5 foolish virgins and wise virgins. We may be at church. We may be doing all these things. But we need to do God's work, and we need to do it for the right reasons. I hope this message has given some insight to some of the things that are happening anyway. We're aware of most of the things that are happening. Well, these 15-minute cities, those people that then live outside of those cities, you can see where they're going to start harassing them, because, why wouldn't you want to be part of everything? Why wouldn't you want to be part of that system? What's wrong with you? The government's helping you. They're providing things for you. You'll be an outcast. People will look at you different. And there will be people like that who aren't believers. We look at how many people have been buying land, getting out of the city because of all the pandemic that's been going on. and prices rising. Well, my hope and prayer is that we stay focused on our mission, the commission that we've been given, and that we're ready for when Jesus returns. And God bless you. Amen.